If the Aggies take down LSU on Saturday, they're making the college football playoff.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. On the show today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk a little bit about why this season the Aggies have done exactly what they need to do to put themselves in the position they are in. We're going to talk a little bit as well about why you don't want to get in a shootout with LSU if possible. But we're going to start the show with a topic that I've been really excited to talk about this week, which is why I believe if you win this football game, you are in the college football playoff. Now, you got a long way to go. A long way to go. There's a lot of opportunities to shoot yourself in the foot. You got a lot of tough games left. You are currently sitting right now with one loss. You are sitting 6-1, sitting pretty at this point in the season, exactly where I could have asked. I mean, hey, 7-0 would have been great, but 6-1 is a perfect spot to be in, especially knowing that you are currently undefeated in SEC play. LSU is a really good football team, and this is going to be a tough game for the Aggies to win. My argument for weeks now, has been this game against LSU is the most important game left on the schedule. And everybody continues to say, and I agree with, you got to look at it from two different schools of thought. There's the game against Texas is important for rivalry reasons, which is very important. It's important for saying, hey, we want to be the best program in this state. Let's take down Texas. All that's important. That game is very crucial. No way, shape, or form am I saying that game is not important, because it is. But when it comes to your goal, which should be making the college football playoff, this LSU game is crucial. Now, for a while, I thought that Texas was I think Texas is a lot more beatable than I previously imagined. I think that I used to look at, okay, here's Texas, here's LSU. It's going to be really tough to beat Texas. I think LSU is more beatable. I still lean toward LSU being more beatable, but I think that gap is quickly narrowing. Obviously, there's some stuff going on with quarterback controversy. We saw that weird post in 24/7 Sports. There's a lot going on, but it's very simple. Unless you shoot yourself in the foot against Auburn or South Carolina, which I think Coach Elko was incredibly disciplined when it comes to taking his teams on the road. I mean, we saw it against Mississippi State. They played bad. And they found a way to win. I think it's going to be harder to win if you play bad against South Carolina or Auburn, but because they're better football teams than Mississippi State. But still, I like getting that ugly road game out of the way. I think you played great against Florida. I think, you did it with Marcel Reed. You played a great football game. You did not play great against Mississippi State. I think you got that ugly road game out of your way to where you can now go on the road, play Auburn, play South Carolina, and hopefully everything goes well. But this game against LSU, it's very simple. If you win this game against LSU, you take down LSU, you don't shoot yourself in the foot against South Carolina or Auburn, you lose to Texas. A 10-2 Texas A&M team with wins over LSU and Missouri, road wins over Auburn and South Carolina and Mississippi State, you're making the college football playoff. That's just the reality. A 10-2 SEC team is going to get in the playoff. I feel very confident in that. Now, I think we also have to see how things shape out. I mean, some of these playoff teams, you look at the standings right now when it comes to the top 25, there's a lot of teams, the Alabamas and Georgias and Texases and LSUs and Texas A&Ms and all of these teams. Coach Elko talked about in his press conference today. There's still 30-ish teams alive to make this playoff. So I would say if you beat LSU, if you go 10-2, here's how I'm going to break this down. I would be incredibly surprised to see a 10-2 Texas A&M team not make the college football playoff. Now, we are going to talk a little bit, we're going to talk a little bit, something I want to dive deeper into, and we're going to do it after this game against LSU, because if you win, this is a more important conversation. But scenarios for making the SEC championship game. And what'll be interesting to see is, let's say you're 10-2 with a loss to Notre Dame and a loss to Texas. You beat LSU, you got a win over Missouri, you got 2 top 10 wins there. If that's your resume, and then let's say you play Texas or Georgia or whoever probably not Bama now, they have 2 losses. You play them in the SEC championship game, right? And you lose. You play one of those 2 teams. And you're 10-3, I still believe a 10-3 team with a conference championship game loss makes the playoff. That's something that we're going to have to do some more digging on, and that's something that we're going to have to – it'll be really interesting when it comes to this conversation. The reason I wanted to have this conversation, because I can already see people running in the comments and saying, well, let's take it one game at a time. This is one game at a time. This conversation to me is surrounded by the importance of this game against LSU. I think if you win this game, there's going to be pressure on you against Texas. You're playing Texas. It's a rivalry. It's one of the most exciting college football games in a decade. Like, that's how exciting this is. And I'm not talking about just for Texas A&M or Texas. I'm talking about for college football. This is an exciting game, reviving one of the best rivalries in college football that many have forgotten about. So with that in mind, looking at the schedule and looking at the way this breaks down, that's what makes this LSU game so important. If you win this game, you are putting yourself in position. You win this game, you're going to be a top 10 team. You're probably going to be maybe even a top 8 team. Then all you got to do is take care of business against Auburn, South Carolina, and New Mexico State. If you do that, if you go into the Texas game 10-1, it's more than likely, and I want to pull up Texas's schedule, because it's going to be – this is going to be a tough – it's not going to be easy to go beat Auburn and South Carolina on the road. I mean, I've said that. Texas has to play at number 25 Vandy, which that will always feel weird to say. You host Florida. You go to Arkansas. You host Kentucky. So, I mean, I feel pretty confident that the Longhorns are going to be unscathed when it comes to the rest of the schedule. They should take care of business against Vandy. Florida's not very good. At Arkansas could be a tough one. We saw what they did to Tennessee, but still not all that concerned. And then Kentucky's not very good. They're fine. But, I mean, there's a couple teams on there. I mean, Kentucky, Arkansas, Florida, and Vandy, to me, are all 4 teams that if you don't play well, you could lose to. They're not bad teams. I think all 4 of those teams are better than I wouldn't say better than South Carolina, but better than Auburn for sure. So you have the perfect remaining schedule to do something special. And I'll tell you this, you go into that game against Texas 10-1 for sure, without any question, the Aggies can win that game. And I don't know if at no point have I said they can't win that game, but I definitely was a lot less confident in Texas A&M's ability to win that game 2-3 weeks ago. I think that game is much, much more winnable now than it was a few months ago, or a few weeks ago even. I just think there's a lot going on over there. You got this quarterback conversations going on. There's just a lot going on. And I think that game's winnable. So if you lose to LSU and then you beat Auburn and South Carolina and New Mexico State, and you go into the Texas game 9-2, I believe this conversation is still on the table. If you win this game, you're in the playoff because you're 10-2. It's the same thing. But you're putting yourself in a lot better position if you just take care of business now and beat LSU. If you beat LSU now, then that Texas game, obviously I'm not saying, well, you can go into it, well, we're already in, who cares? That's obviously not the mentality. But if you go into that game 10-1, you feel a lot more confident knowing, hey, it feels like we're already in the playoff, but let's go beat Texas and let's not be 10-2 and be the 9 or 8 seed. Let's go 11-1 and be one of the top seeds in the whole darn thing. That's going to be the mentality. But to me, and this is once again, when I say you win and you're in the college football playoff, you cannot shoot yourself in the foot against Auburn and South Carolina. That is a huge key here. But I think Auburn is terrible. I think South Carolina is fading. I think you should win those. You should. Now, you can't. If you play a solid football game, you win both those games. If you play the way you did against Mississippi State, you can drop one or both of them, in all honesty. But if you play the way you played against Mississippi State, it could be tough. If you play a good, great, or awesome game, any of those three, I think you win that game. You win both those games. Obviously, New Mexico State. So that's why if you beat LSU, you are putting yourself in position to make the college football playoff. And in year one under Coach Elko, that is all you could ask for. We're going to talk a little bit about why you don't want to get in a shootout with LSU. We're going to have that conversation coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, about our friends over at LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you are not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. Post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. So I now want to talk a little bit about why you don't want to play the shootout game with LSU. Last year's LSU team with Jane Daniels, they, of course, scored a lot of points, and the defense was atrocious. Absolutely atrocious. This year, I don't know how you can sit and look at LSU's defense and say they're great. I think you can say they're better than last year without question, because last year's defense was, just truly awful. Look at the year so far. You've given up 27 points to USC, 21 points to Nichols, 33 points to South Carolina, 17 to LSU, 10 to South Alabama, 26 to Ole Miss. And I think in one of your better games of the year, defensively, you only give up 10 points to Arkansas. Point is, the Aggies are going to be able to score. The Aggies will be able to score against LSU. The question is, can they get stops? Looking at the season they've played so far, this is going to be the best defense that LSU's seen all season, without question. And, if you're able to slow that offense down and hold them to, I think if you hold them to 21, maybe even 28 points, you win this game. I'm in a spot right now where I'm much more confident in Texas A&M's defense than I am the offense. So I don't want to have to ask Texas A&M's offense in any game to score 4 or 5 touchdowns. They can do it. They've proven that. Look against Missouri. They've proven they can score 4 or 5 touchdowns in a game, multiple occasions this season. But I still don't think you want to have to ask your offense to do that. That is why you have to make this game. You don't want to make this game a shootout. You don't want to play that game with them. You never want to play another team's game. You want to make the other team play your game. And your game is run the football, pass, mix in some passes, some play action stuff, get the ball downfield. Mix in the passing game that way, which your running game opens up things in the passing game. That's part of the Colin Klein offense. So you want that, and you want to slow this football game down a little bit. You want to continue to pass the ball. You continue to run the ball, slow the game down. You want to get stops on defense. You want to score touchdowns in the red zone. When you're on defense, you want to get hold them to field goals in the red zone. That's how you want to win a football game. LSU wants to blow you out of the water by putting up 45 points. That's what they want to do. Nussmeier, just look at these numbers here. Nussmeier has thrown the football 283 times this season compared to Texas A&M quarterbacks who have only thrown the football 170 times combined. Once again, in the exact same amount of same amount of games. Both these teams are 6-1. So they have about 100 more passing attempts. That's about, in 7 games, that's about an extra 14 attempts per game, dividing 100 by 7. So point is, LSU, they're going to mix in the run game. They're going to try and run the football, but they want to push it downfield through the air. They've got great wide receivers. They've got a quarterback in Nussmeier, who I really like, and I've liked this offseason. I said I think he's going to be great. I think he did everything the right way. He stuck around. He waited his turn. It's his turn now, and he's really, really good. And he's going to be a guy that I think is a legit NFL draft candidate at some point. I don't know if it's this year, but at some point, he is going to he's going to be great. I can see him being an NFL guy. But that is the key here to me, and I want to continue to reiterate this point because this is it. Don't play LSU's game. Play your game. You're at home. Control the pace. Control time of possession. That's how you're going to win. If you don't do that, I don't feel confident that if you play LSU's game, Texas A&M can win. Now, maybe if you play LSU's game, but you're able to get some stops and turnovers because of how good your defense is, maybe you can win this one 31-28. But that's not what you want. You want this to be a game that you win 24-17. And if you do that, if you win this game 24-17, I think you feel incredibly, incredibly happy with that, with the way that goes. I'd be happy. Once again, I'd be happy if you won at 48-47. I'd be happy if you won like we saw with LSU a while back, and it was like 68-64. That's fine too. I don't care how you win it. I care that you win it. It is simple as that. They don't draw pictures. It's kind of the same spiel I gave after beating Mississippi State. They don't draw pictures. It's like when I get a little bloop single in softball. It doesn't feel great, but they don't draw pictures. It was a 110 exit velo in the stat sheet. And that's the reality here. They don't draw pictures of wins. They just draw a W. That's what you need. And looking at the way the Aggies have played to this point in the season, I think for the most part, they've done a really good job of making other teams play their game. And if you do that against LSU, I think you win because, LSU is built on getting the football, getting down the field and scoring. Through the air, on the ground, they want to score. They want to score points, a lot of points. Boom, boom, boom. Touchdowns, touchdowns, touchdowns. If you don't let them do that, I think you can win this football game. But that is going to be something I monitor because here's the deal. I don't want to sit here and instill confidence in y'all that Texas A&M can win this game if they play into LSU's style. Can they? Sure, they can. If Connor Rigman has a great game and you're getting the ball down the field through the air and Le'Veon Moss and Mari Daniels are ripping off chunk runs, yeah, you could potentially win a game playing their style. But I think if you play your style of football, you win this game 8 times out of 10. I think if you play theirs, you win it 2 or 3 out of 10. Like, that's the reality here. You don't want to play into their hand. You want to play into yours. I'm going to definitely, without question, be paying attention to that in this game. You just don't. That's not how you want to win. And now, you want to win anyway. But if you're going into it saying, let's win this game and score 6 touchdowns, you're playing into their hand, and that is a scary, scary, scary feeling, not something that I think you want to do. So I am, without question, paying attention to that in this game. So we'll see how it goes. Coach Elko, Coach Klein, they got to know what they're doing. If you're Coach Klein, hey, slow it down now. And there's a difference. I'm not saying try to not score points, but I'm saying, ugly this game up a little bit. Ugly it up. If you get some stops on defense, if you get some turnovers, and that's why, and we're going to talk about keys to a victory probably on Friday. That's why, that's where the importance lies in this game is winning the turnover battle. And it's always important, but games like this against top 10 opponents are when it's even more important. If you win the turnover battle, more times than not, you're going to win the football game. So Texas A&M does not need to get in a shootout with LSU. We're going to have a little conversation about, I've seen a lot of people saying, well, Texas A&M hasn't really played anybody. Well, this and that. Well, yeah. We're going to talk. I'm going to discredit anyone saying that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I got to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. You can bet on the NBA right now. You can bet on the NFL. There's a ton. MLB is getting close to done with the World Series. Should be a fun one, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. But, think that's getting close to done. But you got NBA here. College basketball is getting ready to be here. You got college football. You got NFL. There's a lot to bet on over at FanDuel, and I promise you it's a ton of fun. So visit FanDuel.com. I've seen something floating around, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing grinds my gears more. I think in college football, there can be rivalries. There can be all this. It's what makes football so fun. But what grinds my gears is when people are trying to take, I look at college football as an escape from reality. It's something, we all go to work every day and work hard, and you come home and darn it, you want to turn on a college football game. Nothing grinds my gears more than when people try and take away people's enjoyment of college football by discrediting their team or discrediting their season. It irks me. It irks me. And I've seen a lot of people saying, well, Texas A&M has done this, their schedule, it's not that, whatever. Hear me out on this. I don't care. I don't care who we played. I don't care if we play Mississippi State 8 times. You are given a schedule. When you are given a schedule, you play that schedule. It is simple as that. There's nothing you can change about it. You get the schedule and you play it. And of course, all offseason, and I'm going to get to the main point of this topic, which is going to be why Mike Elko, people are going to say, well, who cares the schedule? I want to get into this more. You play the schedule you're given. Texas A&M was given a manageable schedule, something I talked about all offseason. It's why when everyone was laughing at me all offseason and I was saying Texas A&M can make the playoff. They can go 10-2. They could potentially – I was saying 9-3, and people were saying, oh, you're crazy, dude. What are you talking about? Well, here we go. Here we are. Maybe I'm not so crazy after all. But people, I think, after the season, let's say the Aggies go 10-2 and they make the playoff and they win a game and they lose, whatever, right? Let's put that scenario out there. People are going to say, well, should we really buy into the Mike Elko Texas A&M hype, or did they just have a super manageable schedule? What Coach Elko did to put together this roster, to fix holes via the portal, to hire a staff that helps develop players, examples being, I think receivers and offensive line. He's done all of this, put together a roster, a staff that has put together a team that I think is a few things falling their way away from making the college football playoff. And yeah, your tough games were at home. Your Missouris and your LSUs and your Texas and your Notre Dame, all these games are at home. Sure. That's just the way these cards were dealt. Next year, you're going to have to go on the road to play these teams. And while that schedule is going to be a gauntlet, I still have confidence this football team can win 9 football games next season because the coaching staff is doing things the right way. Texas A&M now has an elite staff and a really good roster. They've got good young players on the roster now. They've got good young players coming in next year via high school recruiting rankings. Then you know what Coach Elko is going to go do in the portal. He's proven that he can, scout talent in the transfer portal. And that in the new world of college football is so incredibly important. You have to be able to find talent in the portal and sometimes even find talent that maybe not everybody is looking at as much as you are. So you got to be fired up about the way Coach Elko has handled things to this point. Really impressed with him, really impressed with the way that he has coached, the way he's developed, the way he has recruited, the way he's hired a staff. So don't let anybody take away by saying, well, Texas A&M's playing an easy schedule. Well, Texas A&M, well, anybody that's saying that stuff is just upset about their team not doing well. If it's a Texas fan saying that they're going, well, there's a lot of scary stuff coming up on the horizon. You know what I mean? That's just right. Don't let you. It's not like we were like, hey guys, it's Coach Elko's first year. Can we have a super easy schedule? Not how this works. You play the schedule you're given, and to this point in the season, Texas A&M has done that really, really well and put themselves in a position for postseason success. That's all you can ask for. Don't got to apologize for it, and that's my point. So be excited, ladies and gentlemen. I'm fired up. I wake up every day smiling and happy because Texas A&M has a chance to make the playoff. They have a fun football game this weekend. We are in the middle of the month of October. We're close to Halloween, and Texas A&M is still playing meaningful football games. And if that doesn't get you fired up, I don't know what else will. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank you all so much for being here every single day. Really appreciate it. If you haven't already hit that subscribe button on YouTube, leave a 5-star review on podcast platforms, subscribe on all podcast platforms. Helps me out a ton, helps the show out a ton. Hope everyone has a great rest of their Wednesday, and we will see you tomorrow right here on Locked On Aggies.